still working.
The most sensational. Ellie in the nation. Let's see y'all. It's the Ellie in the nation.
There we go. All right, Dante's Boxing Nation. I'm over here with my man A-Rap King. Go ahead and subscribe to his channel on YouTube. We're gonna go ahead and talk about this Shakur Stevenson versus Robeisy Ramirez fight. So you just watched the fight. I just watched the fight. I want to get your first thoughts on the fight against Shakur Stevenson versus Robeisy Ramirez.
Yeah, well, I watched the fight more than once just to let you know, because it was a close fight, so I had to really watch it more than once to assess what happened. And honestly, Ramirez was pretty good. Like they both was naturally gifted.
Yeah.
Just naturally gifted athletes, and they both have good defense. Even though I think Shakur has the better defense. But watching the fight, I know a lot of people probably had Ramirez winning because the judges had Ramirez winning, but honestly, I had Stevenson Shakur winning because he was landing the better shots, the clearer shots, of course, and also Ramirez was throwing more punches, but he was missing a lot of punches.
Yeah.
I mean, at one point, man, Dante, I can't recall what round, but he threw literally like 7 to 8 punches, and he missed literally every single one.
Yeah.
And got countered with a right hook uppercut.
Yeah.
And Shakur landed his punches. His punches. So who won the exchange? Of course Shakur did, because he made a miss and he countered him. But just because I think Ramirez threw more punches, and I guess Shakur only threw 2 to 7, the judges probably were like, oh, okay, well, we give the exchange to Ramirez because you know how the judges do, especially in the Olympics, and we already seen a lot of robberies in this Olympic, but I'm not gonna say the Ramirez versus Stevenson is a robbery, but at the end of the day, I feel like Stevenson won the fight.
Yeah, and AK, it's funny you brought up him throwing all those punches because I remember that. I remember that sequence in the fight, and it was reminiscent of Pernell Whitaker versus Oscar De La Hoya. Because I remember Oscar De La Hoya, he threw, like right at the end of the round, he threw like a 15-punch combination and missed every single punch. And Pernell Whitaker did this little dance, and even Oscar De La Hoya, he gave Pernell Whitaker props after after Pernell Whitaker avoided all of those punches. Oscar De La Hoya, he put this smile on his face like, okay, that was pretty impressive. But getting to this fight though, man, I wouldn't say it was a robbery, and I do need to go back and watch the fight again because I've only watched the fight one time. But yeah, I seen it, at least the first 2 rounds, I see it just like the judges. The first round, I would give to Robeisy. The second round, it was Shakur's. But yeah, in the third round, that's where, there can be some disagreements because just like you said, clearly Shakur Stevenson, he was landing more punches, but it was Robeisy that was busier. You know what I mean? So, in a situation like that, it's kind of tough. I guess, you have an option if you want to go with the guy who wasn't landing, but he was busier versus the guy, who was landing more punches. So that's kind of a tough one. I personally wish that Stevenson would have just been just a little bit busier. So with that being said, I think Ramirez did enough to win the fight. It was a very, very close fight. And it was one of those type of fights where no matter whose hand would have been raised, no one would have said it was a robbery because it was just that close. Like I said, clearly in the third round, it was Ramirez that was much more busier. He knew what to do to impress the judges. But at the same time, clearly, Shakur Stevenson, he landed more punches. It was kind of like watching a basketball game where you have one team that's putting up a lot of shots, but they're not making a lot of the shots. Versus the other team that's not putting up a whole lot of shots, but they're making more shots at the same time. I know boxing is a little bit different, but that's the argument you could use when it comes to Shakur Stevenson landing punches in that third round.
Yeah. That's the point I was making. I mean, I can't just give a fighter an exchange or the round just because he was more busier. I have to look at the one who's landed the more punches and the effective punches. And like I said, Stevenson, Shakur, his defense was on point, and he was making Ramirez miss by an inch or two. So I could see probably how the judges thought he was landing when he wasn't, because he was literally making him miss by an inch.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to give the credit to Shakur for making him miss by an inch.
Yeah.
And like I said, he was countering right after he make a miss. And it's just like you said, to secure the victory, he should have been a little bit more busier, to be sure. But at the end of the day, that's just my opinion. I really thought Shakur, and there's no biasness in it. I mean, I like the Cuban fighter. I love this style. Hopefully he turns a pro as well, because he's gonna, hopefully dominate in the pros as well. He looked like he could be a good pro.
Oh yeah.
But I'm just saying, as far as Shakur, I feel like he won the fight just based on effective, just good defense and landing the better shots and the clearer shots. Ramirez is busy, but at the end of the day, if the shot don't land, I cannot, just say, oh, you can have this round just because you were throwing more punches. You got to land to earn the point.
That's true, man. And that's funny, all the stuff you're saying. I was pretty much going to say, I really do hope that Ramirez, he turns pro. Hopefully he defects from Cuba. It's crazy because I was talking to Ranger, and he was telling me that Cuba, they actually did not even allow their better fighters to represent the Olympics in fear of them defecting. So, what Ranger is telling me, which, Ranger, he's Cuban, he told me basically that they only allowed the fighters that they did not feel would defect to represent the Olympics. If that's the case, that's really sad. But that also shows, once again, how impressive and how dominant, the Cuban team is. No doubt about it. When it comes to Ramirez, man, a whole lot of talent. I love the style. Just like you just said, I would love to see him go pro. But, unfortunately, we may or may not get that. But, yeah, man, when it comes to this fight, it was razor thin. And after we get off the phone, man, I'm about to go and I'm about to watch it again and just get, a little bit of a better assessment, because I've only watched it once, like I said before. But it was close. It was close.
Yeah. And another thing I want to say, I don't know if you saw the post-fight interview when they interviewed Shakur, and he was crying and saying that he felt like, he gave credit. I earned even more respect for him, because he was saying, he beat me. I should have did more to earn the fight, to earn the win. And he was very humble, in defeat. So I gave him a lot of respect for that, because he easily could have said, "Oh man, they robbed me," like they robbed all these other fighters in the Olympics.
Yeah.
And pulled off that stunt. But at the end of the day, he's very humble, and I think honestly, Dante, I know he got he didn't get the gold medal, but honestly, I feel like he's gonna be a better pro just because of that, because he's gonna work harder in the pros just because he didn't get the gold medal to make up for it. Kind of like Floyd Mayweather. I think I heard him one time say that him losing in the Olympics or getting robbed in the Olympics made him become the better pro, because it made him even work harder than what he was about to. Like when he turned pro, he worked harder than he was initially working. And it made him a better pro, and he stayed undefeated till now. He's still undefeated. So I think Stevenson Shakur will fall in the same path as Floyd Mayweather, and I think he's going to move up all the way to 140 because he got the frame for it, and the height and the skill.
Yeah, no, we already know when it comes to boxing, Americans, they have more of an American style. They have more of a professional style, when it comes to the amateurs. You look at Errol Spence. Errol Spence, he didn't win a gold medal either. You know, you look at Demetrius Andrade, he didn't win a gold medal. And all of these fighters are extremely dominant as pros. So, you know, you can attribute a lot of it to the fact that these amateur fighters, the Cubans, the Soviet Union fighters, you know, they rely more on an amateur career than a pro career. You know, to them, that amateur career, that is their pro career. So they have a lot more experience fighting as amateurs. Like Ramirez, this is his second Olympics. That means he's been fighting, you know, as an amateur for 4 years and beyond. You know, more than 4 years, you know. So, and not only has he been fighting as an amateur, I should say he's been fighting international tournaments for more than 4 years. You know, when it comes to Shakur Stevenson, he only had 23 international fights. So, yeah, a lot of these fighters, you know, they have more experience in the amateurs, and that's the reason why American fighters, they often dominate when it comes to the pro rankings, because they have more of a pro style. But yes, no doubt about it, this is going to make Shakur better. And realistically, even though he lost the fight, like you said, it was so close, it could have went either way. It wasn't like he was dominated by anyone. You know what I mean? It wasn't like he was dominated by anyone. So, you know, I know it's a tough loss for Shakur. And, you know, for all American fans, it's a tough loss, because for you to get that close, it's different if you lose, like Rashid Warren losing in the first round of the Olympics. That's not as bad. But when you get that close, where you're in a gold medal match and, you know, it's up to just one round, and like you said, on top of it, he was the one that landed the cleaner blows. Yeah, man, that's a tough setback. But, you know, it's on to the pros now. So
yeah, and it was a tough. I mean, it's not a bad loss, like I said, because at the end of the day, it was very close. It could have went either way, but I say it's a bad loss. He took it hard because I mean, he felt like he let everybody down, like Andre Ward and, you know, all these pro fighters, like stars that was tweeting about the fight and, you know, and stuff. That's why he took it the way he did, you know, after the fight, because of that. I know a lot of people are calling him all types of names. Oh, he this, he that. How can you talk bad about somebody who's so humbled in that way? You know what I mean? Like, if you ever see the video they posted of his post interview, you see a lot of bad comments about, you know, oh, you're a crying baby, you know, you need to grow up, blah blah blah. But they don't understand the situation he's in. You know, like I said, he's in a situation where he felt he's under a lot of pressure. I mean, even you got Floyd Mayweather that went there just to see him. You know, all these pro fighters, like I said, all these Americans that's dependent on him. I mean, he was even on commercials.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. I mean,
couple commercials.
I mean, listen, man. When you have American fans, well, you know what? I won't even call them American. When you have fans that, let's say, live in America, and they're rooting against the American in the Olympics, that tells you everything you need to know about them personally. That means it's not about boxing, and it never was. It's a simple case of Shakur Stevenson being on the coincidental list. For you to make fun of a man crying because he didn't win the gold medal, and the fact that you see him extremely emotional, you feed off of that? Like, oh man, this is just great. Not only did this bastard lose, but he's actually hurt that he lost. That tells you everything you need to know about some of the people that live in this country. Do you think you would see fans do this in Cuba? You think you would see fans do this in the UK? Do you think fans in the UK would watch one of their own countrymen lose the gold medal match and make fun of him, laugh at him because he lost? I mean, I remember when Canelo Alvarez lost to Floyd Mayweather. Canelo Alvarez, he was extremely emotional. Him and his whole family, they were extremely emotional when they lost that fight. Do you think there were any Mexican fans that were laughing at Canelo? Oh, look at him. He's all emotional. He has bruises all over his face. Do you think any of them did that? Of course not. And you're not supposed to. But it only happens in the DSA, the divided states of America. That's the only time when you see these racial double standards. You know, it's very reminiscent of the American basketball Olympic team, the Dream Team. I don't remember exactly which Olympics it was, but they actually had lost. Our basketball team had lost to one of the European teams. And to everyone's surprise, the American fans that were in the stands, they were celebrating that USA had lost. So they were celebrating that their own team had basically lost. And when these fans did this, it was so shocking that it surprised people across the globe. You have fans all across the globe that were shocked that America would basically turn on their own country and celebrate their demise. This would never happen in any other country. Only in America would something like this occur.
Yeah, I mean, even Cuba, like they was cheering for Ramirez. I mean, even if he lost, they wouldn't, make fun of him or anything. They just say, oh, he did his best. And like I said with Shakur, they talking about, time for memes and stuff. Like, how you gonna? I mean, it's just like I said before, the USA, when it comes to supporting their own countrymen, they just do a horrible job doing that. But I want to talk about one thing in the fight, though. It was like when Shakur, it looked like he tripped, or he slipped.
Yeah.
Even doing that, he wasn't really getting hit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I avoided a lot of shots. But like I said, if y'all watch the fight again, just pay attention to Ramirez's offense. Like when he throws, pay attention to what he lands. Mm-hmm. And how Shakur made him miss a lot. And every now and then he will counter him when he get a chance to. Mm-hmm. And then when Shakur was countering, he will catch him clean. The punches will be clean, split shot. And I don't know how the amateur scoring is. Do they count body shots? Because I swear they probably don't even count body shots. Because
he was landing some good body shots. Yeah.
Yeah, Stevenson was landing a lot of good body shots, and I remember with the Russell fight, his brother, when he fought and he got robbed, he was throwing a lot of body shots. And I don't know, maybe they don't be counting body shots. I don't know what's the deal. But at the end of the day, he was landing a lot of clean shots and making him miss a whole lot. But at the end of the day, like I said, nothing but love for Ramirez too. Like I said, the kid has a lot of talent. Both fighters has a lot of talent. They shouldn't be, ashamed of anything. Like Stevenson. I mean, he still won a silver medal. I know he don't want to settle for number 2, but that's sort of the remarks of a great champion.
Yeah.
And I feel like if they both turn pro in the future, that'd be a huge fight as a rematch in the pros. And like I said, I think Shakur will have the advantage in a pro fight because he likes to take his time and adjust. And in a 12-round fight, he will be able to do that more so. So I feel like if that fight happens as a pro, in the pros, if they both turn pro, that'd be a hell of a fight. And I think Stevenson will pull it off. But at the end of the day, like I said, hopefully Ramirez turn pro. I know how the Cuban. They can't turn pro and this and that. Even though I thought they already solved that problem, I thought they was going to let their amateur fighters turn pro. From what I heard, they could even travel. But I guess that's not true. I don't know where I think Gamboa tweeted something like that last year. That they was working on something like that. But I guess that they didn't solve that problem.
Yeah, actually what I had heard was they were going to start allowing Cubans that defected to come back and visit Cuba whenever they wanted, and they could, of course, come back to the States. That's what I had heard. But once again, man, I love Ramirez and Shakur Stevenson's style. I really wish Ramirez was able to turn pro. It would really be interesting to see how he would develop as a pro. Just to have more Cuban fighters, especially with that special effects, the rhythm, all of the coordination wrapped together. More Cuban fighters incorporated in the pro rankings, that would really, really help the sport grow. But going back to these biased fans that celebrated Shakur Stevenson's defeat, This is what I love about the Cuban fans. When it comes to Cuban fans, they do not care what your color is. If you're Cuban, you're Cuban. There is no such thing as you're a black Cuban, you're a light-skinned Cuban. No, if you're Cuban, you're Cuban. I've seen people in my comment section, I've seen Cuban fans in my comment section, they praise Ramirez the exact same way they praise Guillermo Rigondeaux. But it's not like that in America, and that's really sad. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up. This is part 1 of this Robeisy Ramirez versus Shakur Stevenson fight. Go ahead and subscribe to Arab King's YouTube channel. And that's all I got for now. I'm on to the next one.
This is Bobby, and you're watching Dante's Boxing Nation.